Coming up, over a few beers in the shed, we're gearing up for our most remote adventure in years, and we'll take you through everything you need to know for your own big trip. We'll also answer UHF questions, dive into some sick rigs and epic fails. Plus, you could win a brand new Run for Winch for your four-wheel drive. Well, folks, you know what time it is. There's a cold beer here. I'm in my shed, and if you can see behind me as well, Sooty is covered in mud because I've just got back from an epic trip down in Victoria, which was absolutely wild. I've still got mud on my hoodie. We've literally just got back, and the best thing about this is we're getting ready for another trip, which is even bigger in the opposite direction, up north in the Kimberley. So someone else will be getting ready for this trip. Graham, mate, are you online?
Mate, not only am I online, I'm on the right side of the country for once. You're coming across to see me.
Actually, you're so far south that we're probably at the same distance of drive, to be honest with you.
Can we let the cat out of the bag as to what we're doing? Can we say what we're doing, or should we just leave that a bit of a secret?
Give a couple of hints. Just give a couple of hints. Those that know will know, but otherwise they won't.
How about longest low-range track in Australia?
Wow. One of the most remote, certainly.
Yep.
And also the place where I'm going to catch a way bigger barramundi than Graham. So, look, it's going to be a good trip all round.
Four of those facts, one of them is not true, folks. I'm going to let you decide which one is the one that's not true. No, Kimberley, mate, looking forward to it.
I can't wait, mate. I'm getting ready. Actually, I've got a lot of work to do, a lot of preparation to go, and it sort of leads into a hot topic for this one because I think so many people around this country are getting ready for a big trip. Now, be it Cape York, whether it be the High Country or Tasmania or something iconic, you can guarantee that a lot of people are going to be doing that big trip this year because, if you ask me, 2021 is the year for big trips, mate.
Yep.
In this episode of Beers in the Shed, we're going to go through all the preparation things you need to know about planning a big trip, like what's the best time to go, what spares you might need, best destinations, you name it. We'll give you all the inside information you need. Plus, we're also giving away a Run for Winch, mate, the same one I'm running here on Sooty. You can win one by simply tuning in. I know. How good is it? Just winning prizes just by simply watching this show. Plus, we've also got a $300 gift voucher from Castrol for the Rig of the Week. And like always, there's so many prizes just for tuning in. So, mate, what do you reckon? We just get into the hot topic because this one's an absolute cracker. And I reckon this is going to be one of the main things that people want to hear about this time of the year.
The basis of this hot topic, mate, of course, is we're talking big trips. Everyone's thinking about doing a big trip. I mean, we've been privileged to travel around Australia so many times together. I don't know whether that's a privilege or not. I might recap on that one a bit later on. But we've learnt a lot in a lot of the big trips that we do. And as they roll around like this one, it can be a bit stressful getting ready to go if you don't quite know all the little bits and pieces that you sort of learn with a bit of experience. So, how do you prepare? What do you bring?
And it's so timely for us as well, mate, because we're going to the Kimberley and potentially one of the most remote places in Australia. This part of the world, I'm double checking everything, mate, including spares and making sure the vehicle's running. I'm taking the Dirty 30 as well, so I've just got to make sure that thing is running, tip top and just making sure that everything's sorted. So as well, I'm going through this just like you guys are at home. So we'll go through everything. It's a timely topic.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions that people have put forward, mate. We put a bit of a post up on the old socials, the social medias. And gee whiz, we had to narrow them down. So we've got a bit of a representative questions here, mate. Do you want to go one for one?
Here's one from Daniel. The ideal spares to take. Now that's such an open-ended question, don't you reckon, mate?
It really is. Yeah, well, it is because it depends on your vehicle, how old your vehicle is, how hard you drive it, what you last fixed on it, what you haven't fixed on it. Yeah, it's a bit of an open-ended question.
I think maybe if we split that up, and I'll talk about what spares I'd bring for my vehicle. You talk about the ones that you'd bring for your D-Max, say.
Oh, okay,
We've got a mix of vehicles, a live axle, older vehicle. We've got a newer one. For me, it's funny this question came up because I'm actually just organising my spares right now for the Kimberley. I'm going a little bit extreme, mind you, because this is a very remote trip. So I have got zero help on this one. So I need to be self-sufficient. I'm taking an alternator. I'm taking a starter motor. Now, the reason I'm choosing a starter motor because it's an automatic vehicle. Now, that's a great thing to have. If you've got a manual vehicle, I wouldn't even bother because you can always clutch start it, worst come to worst. But because it's an auto, I'm taking a starter motor. I'm taking a couple of tie rod ends. I have broken those in the past. They're a pain to fix with just ratchet straps. Ratchet straps are going in there, mind you, because they're not a spare part per se, but take lots of ratchet straps with you. I'm taking a CV. Not that I need it. Like, even if I broke a CV, you can still get out in three-wheel drive. At the end of the day, you just want to make sure your vehicle can get out or get to help. So, it's not about, for me, I'll take a spare CV, a spare manual locking hub, and that's just about it, I think.
You taking a trailer as well? How's that going to work for you?
That's right. Look, it's quite a few spare parts there. But like I said, I'm going really remote. If I was going to like a normal Cape York trip, and especially a holiday as well, not we push the envelope a little bit in our trips. The chance of breaking something for us probably higher than the average. On a typical trip, I'd probably cut down a couple of those spares. But heck, at the end of the day, that is like, I'm talking about those spares would fit in a little tiny space case like that. If you've got room,
there's not as much. No,
just take it. Just take it. And the other thing I'll add as well, this is a handy little tip for anybody doing any remote travel, get a bunch of nuts and bolts and washers that will sort of suit your vehicle. So things rattle loose, you'll lose bits and pieces. That can happen on corrugations. If you just get a stack of bolts, either go to a wrecker's and just start taking bolts off a wrecked vehicle. Even just random size nuts and bolts, they come in so handy on the track. If not for you, someone you'll meet up there, and you'll meet a lot of people up there. Those just nuts and bolts have saved my bacon so many times it's not funny.
Yeah. For the D-Max, it's going to be a much more cut down list than yours, mate, because it's virtually a brand new car, and they're so reliable that I really don't need to take that much. But what I will take, I'm going to take a spare CV just in case. Don't think I'll need it, but I'll take a spare CV. Spare steering arm, because if you break a steering component up there, as we saw on the $1,000 track,
that's probably one of the worst things you can break, to be honest.
Getting out is an absolute mission, so it takes up no room. Throw one of those in. And I'm going to take, because I probably won't be at the head of the convoy, I might, but I might not, I'm also going to take a spare air filter, because it's nice because we're going up to Kimberley, it's going to be dusty on the gear.
I'll be taking a couple of those,
Exactly, so chuck a few of those in, mate. I'm going to take a couple of generic hoses, just because I can, just in case. A bit of that old metallic putty, you know, that stuff it turns into metal when you squish it into cracks and things. Take a bit of that just in case someone does a
Chemi weld.
Yeah, a bit of Chemi weld just in case, mate. Outside of that, I'll be taking a couple of stubby holders, because if you lose a stubby holder, mate, you're stuffed. You really are.
There's nothing worse.
You got to borrow one off your mate, and he never shuts up about it. So a couple of stubby holders, and that's about it for an IFS, mate. Really, a new vehicle? That'll be me.
You've just sparked my interest there, and a couple of things you said that I'm going to add to my list actually after we finish filming this show. But I'm going to take a couple of belts as well. Just a couple of spare belts. Especially on those modern vehicles, they usually run one serpentine belt. Like I've never seen one of those. Yeah, I've never seen one of those fail out in the bush. But heck, if you've got another one, it runs everything from your alternator to your fan, everything. So take a couple of belts.
And here's a good tip when it comes to serpentine belts. If you're going to pack one, before you even leave, go and take as many photos as you can with your phone of how your serpentine belt goes on, because trust me, when it comes off, putting it back on again, whew.
Yeah, get a big breaker bar, that's the key. Brian, he wants to know, what is the most critical mechanical repair or knowledge that the average Joe should have?
Well, mate, you've just called my name out, Average Joe over here. If you can get down into the basics of the front of your vehicle, so for example, if you break a CV, you can at least start getting into that CV and have a rough idea what it is on a very remote track. You're halfway there. Because then if you've got that knowledge, you've basically got knowledge to use the tools, if that makes sense. I know I'm really dumbing it down, but you don't really need. You know what I'm getting at. If you know how to change a CV, you know how to use a lot of tools. That's right. And look, I'm going to dumb it down even further. And this is what I think a lot of people wouldn't expect me to say this, but you don't need to know that much at all. Like, changing a CV is one thing. Look, at the end of the day, Graham, like, how many times have we broken even an IFS CV and just used a grinder or something just to cut the stub axle out? You just keep driving in three-wheel drive. That's exactly it's not going to ruin your holiday if you don't know how to change a CV. I reckon having a basic mechanical knowledge, so you can walk around the vehicle just so you can see if something's out of whack. Like if there's coolant underneath the vehicle, or the brake pedal's a bit spongy, or just having that sense to be able to stop when something's not quite right, that'll save you a heck of a lot of dramas. But really you don't necessarily need to be a whiz on the tools. And the cool thing about when you're travelling to these places, whether it's Kimberley, the High Country, Cape York, you're not on your own. Even if you're travelling by yourself, there's going to be so many other like-minded four-wheel drivers up there, and chances are they're going to be clever on the tools. As long as you've got the spare parts and the tools with you, they'll, and a couple of beers in the fridge, they'll be pretty keen to jump in and give you a hand. There's one more question here about spares, and it ironically comes from a bloke by the name of Jack. Yes, make sure you take a Jack with you, but that's his name. He says he's planning a trip to Cape this year. Do I really need to take 2 spare tyres, or will one do? Look, Cape York, I'm going to say 1 spare tyre. Yeah, I'm going to go with 1. If you got 2, why not? But if you don't have 2 and you only got 1, you're thinking, oh heck, I've got to go buy a swing away wheel carrier and another tyre and a wheel. Unless, of course, you've got a really odd size wheel tyre combination, like something that you have to order in from the USA or something like that, because they don't sell it here on the shelves, and you got an 8-month wait before you get it. Take a few if that's the case. Yeah, 20-inch take a tyre puncture repair kit, I'd say. Yeah, absolutely. And an air compressor, on that point, goes without saying. An air compressor, and just on that point, you said make sure you bring a jack.
when you're travelling in remote areas, make sure you got a jack, but the one that fits your vehicle. If you've got bigger tyres on your vehicle, like old Soot does here, make sure you've got a jack that can actually lift it up. So your standard one, throw that in the bin and go get yourself a proper bottle jack that can actually lift it up. And try this at home before you leave and make sure it can. I'll let you answer this one, Graham. This is from Isaac. Is it worth waiting to have the essentials like sliders, side steps, winch, lights, fridge, etc. before you plan that big trip? That's a good question.
It's a great question. And I think, look, we probably get asked this at shows and on social media and things a lot, this very question. And I think a lot of people would tip their answer towards, yeah, absolutely. You can't go bush without the essentials. You'll die a horrible death. But what I'd like to bring to the fore here, in 2006 or 2007, I headed off around Australia for 13 months in Shorty. I did not have sliders or side steps. I did not have a winch. I did not have lights. I had a gas fridge, and I went around Australia for 13 months. Exactly. I had to light the fridge every time we stopped.
1960s? What sort of decade are we talking about?
1955, that was, yeah. But what I'm getting at here is, mate, I just went on that trip. I could have saved up and it would take me another 3 years, but I went on that trip. And because of that trip, I got a job at Four Wheel Drive Action magazine, or Four Wheel Drive Monthly back then. And because of that, I'm sitting here doing this show right now. Folks, there you go. Just bloody go.
It's also the order of mods that people get excited about.
That's true, yeah.
And I don't want to generalise here, but because I found myself in this boat. When I was a young bloke, I spent money on stupid mods that didn't help me too much. Like exhausts and things like that, or a bigger turbo, or how can we get something so slow and diesel to go 10% faster. I know, spend 10 grand on it. No, spend your money wisely and get yourself a second battery and a fridge and a couple of camp lights.
Absolutely.
Maybe a snorkel and a winch. If you've got that, and let's face it, 90% of people probably do, you're ready to go on 90%, no more, 95% of the tracks in Australia without a doubt.
I couldn't agree more, mate. I couldn't agree more. So take-home message there, Isaac, is no, don't wait. I don't think if you've got the basics and you're happy with the way your vehicle performs, you're comfortable, just go. Just bloody do it. Just do it.
Just do it.
We got one from Ruby here. If you'll be alone, do you really need a winch? Can you get by with max tracks, or is it risky? What do you reckon on that one, mate?
Look, it's one of those things, look, yes, you can get by with a set of max tracks. Heck, the amount of times when I'm on a holiday just with me and the missus and just away doing a trip to like Cape York or the Kimberley, the amount of times my winch comes out, it's about zero. I think it's great insurance, though, to have a winch. It gives me confidence that when I'm driving solo, that I can get out of strife. Max Tracks will do the job most of the time, 90% of the time. When I was actually on that same trip with my missus, we were down on the beach. We went north of, Broome Cable Beach, and there's heaps of tourists there. And I thought I'd be clever and I'd go way further north, away from the tourists. Got bogged, as you can imagine, really soft sand up there.
What were you heading that far north for, mate? What were you trying to get away
just
from?
Just a little bit of privacy. Nothing to worry about there. Yeah, anyway, and got the Max Tracks out and became quite a sweaty event for all the wrong reasons. And I had to get the old Dirty 30 unbogged and it was quite the event. But without the Max Tracks, there was nothing to winch off, let me tell you that. I would have been quite embarrassed.
Stuck there. Mate, I think Max Tracks and a decent long handle shovel and a bit of gumption, you'll get through just about anything, eh?
Yeah, exactly. But if you can fit a winch, just give you that peace of mind, I reckon do it.
Exactly, mate. Brody's got a question here for you. What are the top 3 things to take when going remote? What do you reckon, mate? Okay, well, I'm not going to mention any things we've covered so far in this show. I'm going to try and think of a couple of new things. And look, what is remote? Like remote, the trip we're doing in the Kimberley, where we're literally doing about 700 Ks, low range. No one can come and help you. That's pretty remote. Cape York is not that remote. Not remote at all.
You're going to have people coming past Simpson Desert, High Country. You're going to come. There's going to be a car coming past you every 25 minutes. That's the nature of it.
Truth be told, mate, often your weekend trips away can be more remote than the big iconic trips. You can head down a track off the side of, Monkey Gum that no one goes down, and if you've got no mobile reception down there, you can be as remote as being on the moon. No one's going to come past you.
100%.
So I guess it does depend on what remote is. But I'm going to go straight off the top of the bat. You've got to have good comms if you're going to go remote, just in case something happens. You've got to have a first aid kit, mate. If you don't have a first aid kit, you're kidding yourself.
Bingo, yep.
Have something in case someone gets bitten by a snake and you've got comms, you can get them out of there. And if you're really concerned about remote, if it really is something that you struggle with a bit and you need that extra bit of comfort, then take an EPIRB, chuck it somewhere that you can hit it if you need to.
That's a good one.
Just in case, mate. They're my 3 things for going remote. Rightio, mate, let's get into some nitty-gritties here. We're talking fuel and water. It can be a bit of a tricky one for people. I mean, how much fuel, how much water do you take? And if you run out of either, it can be quite nasty, mate. So you've got to get it right.
Absolutely. Absolutely, life and death sort of stuff, this is.
Dylan wants to know, how much water and fuel shall I carry for a 2-week remote trip? Again, that's a very open-ended question because you might be driving 1,000 k's, stopping for the whole 2 weeks and coming back again.
It does depend on like when you can fill up water. A lot of times when you're going to Cape York or Tasmania High Country, there's places to fill up fresh water.
Yeah.
If you're going, stopping at a station or something like that, a roadhouse or something like that, you'll be able to fill up. But I'll generally allow, and it might seem like a fair bit, but at least 5 litres a day, just for me. And that's especially if I'm going to the top end where it's going to be quite hot. I know I'm probably going to drink 2 to 3 litres at least in the day. Plus, I want a little bit of water to wash your hands and wash those barrow down, of course, all that sort of stuff. Don't laugh. Don't laugh. It's a serious thing.
No.
Survival,
it's a very serious
survival
thing.
here.
Well, you got to catch a barrow first, mate. I'm yet to see it. But anywho, when it comes to me, another tip for water is I divide my water up into 2 containers. So I'll have a main container that's attached to the vehicle on my GU here that's behind me. Believe it or not, I've actually got a water tank on here that carries 140 litres of water, but I don't use any of it for drinking. It's all just there as, like you say, washing down barrow.
Hot showers. Graham likes to have a 35-minute shower every night, no matter where
every
it is.
Night,
That's one of his rules.
You got to fill up the spa bath, the inflatable spa bath.
It's a long time in the shower, actually. There's a lot of suds noises coming out.
When you've got a Porsche, you take a long time to clean it. Let me tell you that much. The other thing I take is drinking water in a separate container, and that can just mean going to the local supermarket and getting those plastic 10-litre containers and getting as many of those as you need for the trip. That way your water's broken up into 2. If you get a hole in your main water tank or something goes wrong, you've always got your water divided up. That's just how I travel. It's a pretty good rule of thumb, though. It's
a great bit of advice. I've actually just fitted a water tank to the Dirty 30, mate. It's only about 60 or 70 litres, but for a 2-week trip, that full plus all my drinking water, which will be separate, and I'll just probably carry just a couple of those 20-litre jerry cans for drinking water, and I'll be good to go.
Speaking of 35-minute showers, mate, my mate Nicholas here, he wants to know, what do you guys do to stay hygienic during the time away? Hygienic? I mean, I don't, to be honest, I don't do anything. I don't do a bloody thing.
Not a stack. Like, this is the truth. This is the truth. When it comes to showers, none of our vehicles actually have showers fitted. You probably think we're a bunch of dirty buggers, but we are.
And rightfully so,
in the top end especially, you'll find a lot of little creeks and stuff and water holes you can actually go swimming in. We try and make a bit of a habit of that when we can, but there will be a few stints where we'll do a few days without a shower, without a doubt.
You're not going to die. You ain't going to die if you stink a bit.
Let's get honest with our crew, mate.
Go on.
We sometimes get those little baby wipes, and if you get a pack of baby wipes, it's nothing better. If you're hot and sticky and sweaty, you've been out the top end, running around all day, catching, metre-long barrow one after the other, you develop a bit of a sweat, get a couple of baby wipes, and just under the armpits, you know what I'm talking about. I don't have to paint a picture, but just before you go to bed.
Is that what those tissues outside your swag are every morning?
Yeah, mate.
Are they baby wipes?
Yeah, that's them. Yeah, it's that.
Well.
This one here is from Axel, mate. He goes, what type of meals do you prepare? Do you follow a pre-planned menu or improvise?
Truth. Axel, have you watched many of our shows, mate? Mate, I think that meal times out in the bush. You'll agree with me on this one. That's some of the most fun you'll have out there. Is putting together some really, not fancy but creative meals. I kind of don't like just turning up at camp and just putting sausages on the barbie and putting them in a piece of bread.
How it goes. Well, and we've actually been talking about this today about our Kimberley trip because we're going to do, I think it's something like 20 nights camping without going to the shops. So
that's about
it's
right.
It's a fair old time. It's about nearly 3 weeks, and one of the things we need to do is get a little bit more fridge space, turn a couple of those fridges into freezers, and we've got to make sure we don't just buy our meat from Coles or Woolies. We've got to go get it cryovac so we can save space in those fridges. Turn at least 1 or 2 fridges down to a freezer. And that's why it's good sometimes travelling in a convoy. You can get someone's fridge as a dedicated freezer and basically plan, right, we're going to have this on it. You got chicken this night, you got beef this night, and you do whatever. And you basically plan your meals out.
Another great idea, mate, if you do have a convoy, and this is actually leading into the next question, which we'll get to in a minute, but if you do have a convoy with you, a really good idea is to divide your meals up within the convoy. So Monday night, Shauno might be cooking. Terrible night, that one. Tuesday night, I might be cooking.
Don't need to eat.
You're looking forward to that. Wednesday night, your other mate's cooking. And that way, you only need to plan for maybe a third of the meals that you would if you were cooking for yourself every single night. So it's a really good bit of advice there, mate. And
bit of camaraderie as well.
Yeah, because you can give your mate a bit of crud, if he doesn't cook the decent. Anyway, Ash wants to know, mate, minimum convoy size for a Simpson Desert or Cape trip? Minimum convoy size, mate.
Ideally, at least 2 in your convoy.
Yeah, two's minimum, yeah.
Two in the convoy. But look, I'm going to say Cape York, go by yourself. Nothing is that hard up there. And even Simpson Desert, because what a lot of people don't appreciate, mate, is when they get to these places, they don't just go day one and start the Simpson Desert or day one start the Old Telly. They're going to Bramwell Junction the night before, and they're having a beer down there, listening to Ken give his speech. They meet up with some other travellers saying, hey, we're doing the Old Telly tomorrow. And they're like, oh, cool. They're a bit nervous as well. And you're like, oh, do you mind if I tag along? They wouldn't. They love people tagging along. All of a sudden you've met travellers. You're going to spend the next 2 weeks with this mob because that's what happens up there.
That gets me excited just thinking about that. It
does. This is what it's all about. So if you go by yourself, you will meet other like-minded people up there. You might forge friendships that last a lifetime, but do not be scared going by yourself up there.
And that's, mate, you've just answered Matt's question. He was the next one in the thing there. He said, can you do the Cape alone? Is it difficult to do alone? No, easy. Yep. It's easy, mate. You'll do the Cape alone. Piece of cake. Done. You'll have the time of your life. You might meet your future partner. It could be a four-wheel drive bromance or bromance.
It could
Whatever.
be. It could, mate, who knows? Who knows? You're like a 70s party. You put your cruiser keys in a bowl and...
That's what cruiser drivers do, mate. That's what cruiser drivers do.
Shame it was all the blokes only convoy. But anyway. No, look, I've got a little story. Actually, Tim, who works with us, he works in the office behind the scenes.
Big Timbo, yep.
Yeah, he went to Cape York just a couple of years ago now. Went by himself. They were on a trip around Australia. Exactly that thing happened, mate. They met up with some people at Bramwell. They did Cape York with it. Ended up travelling 2 weeks with them. Had the time of their lives. And I think what happens in so many friend circles is 8 months out, everyone gets super pumped for Cape York this year. They're like, yes, it's going to happen. Yeah. And then next month, while one couple's dropped out, the next month another couple drops out. You get 3 weeks out from that bloody trip and you're going by yourself or you don't go. And a lot of people just choose not to go because, everyone's pulled out.
Yep, don't
Bugger
do that.
them. Come back with the photos and they'll be so jealous. And just do not let that stop your trip, that's for sure.
Mate, look, I think at the end of the day, these adventures are something that, these big adventures, I don't mean your weekend trips that we all froth over because, you can get ready on Thursday and leave after work Friday. I'm talking your big 2, 3, 4 weekers, even longer. These are the trips that every red-blooded four-wheel driver should be looking forward to and aiming to do. And, mate, one thing we sort of haven't really touched on is when is a good time, in your opinion, mate, to sort of kick off on one of these big adventures?
I think no matter where you go in Australia, the best time ever to go is outside of the school holiday windows. Now, I know a lot of people are saying, hey, I've got kids and it's going to be hard. Take them out of school. Literally, it'll be that much better, the trip, to go outside of the school holiday windows. Take them out for a week and just do 1 week in school holidays and 1 week out. I just find that the difference, like, put it this way, the difference in Cape York between the June, July school holidays, whatever date they're on, compared to like a week before or a week after, it's like
crazy difference.
It's absolutely mental. There is so many vehicles, so many people. Campsites are full. There's rubbish everywhere. You go like 2 weeks before that, you're sitting at Elliott Falls with a beer in your hand, and there's no one around, and you've got the whole place to yourself. And I love that. If you can suck it up a bit, go when conditions aren't really conducive to crowds. So head up north right early on, like we're doing, when it's hot. There could be a bit of rain still around. There's a few marsh flies, a few sandflies, but they're not going to have any tourists. You're absolutely not going to have tourists. But head up there in July. Well, you're going to have to share your campground with 1 million people. So just look at those shoulder seasons when it's not quite as busy. That's my advice. Outside of school holidays, absolutely you nail it there, and then the shoulder seasons. Yeah, anyone can do these big trips. You don't need to be crazy prepared like everyone thinks. It's just a matter of putting your head down and sort of working out what it is you need. And I think you'll agree with this, mate. Just to sign off on the big hot topic for this week, I think no matter what, just bloody do it. I think that's the take-home message, mate. Exactly right, mate. I couldn't have said it better. Right, now, listen, last episode, mate, we answered all your questions out there, and by goodness, didn't you folks put a few questions together? We're absolutely swamped. We're the guys in the office helping us out to pick the questions. We had 2 prize packs from Iron Jack to give away for your questions in the comments. We picked 2 of those winners. Who are each going to be getting some Iron Jack merch. They've got fishing shirts in there, mate, and there are a few fishing shirts. I've got one right here, mate. This one's so do I, funnily enough. Because all of mine, mate, have got fish juice. That sounds wrong. They smell like fish. That doesn't sound any better. Anyway, you can get the idea. Better, mate. You caught a fish. Yeah, well done, you. Okay, mate. Here we go. The 2 winners.
We've got Corey Lutzow. Lutzow, I think that's your name, Corey. You'll know who you are. Corey wants to know, when you've seen all of Australia, where is the first place you're going back to, Mr. Sean Whale?
Oh, for me, Arnhem Land, I reckon. When I've seen the rest of Australia, I haven't seen all of Australia yet. And for me,
No.
Graham, block your ears for a while, mate. I really want to hit the Coral Coast of WA.
Yeah.
I haven't done that little stint around Exmouth and all that sort of Coral Bay sort of region. So I want to hit that up before I go back to some of the other places.
You wait till you fall in love with Southwest WA too, mate. It'll change your world.
Got no interest really. I've heard enough about it.
I'm going to answer it. For me, it's going to be I'm going to head to Arnhem Land with Shauno. Nothing weird about that. I think that place ticked every box for me. I absolutely loved it. I'm going to add on to that. I will definitely, probably year after year, if I can, head down to Tasmania. I still reckon that is one of the most amazing places in Australia. I love Tassie. Mate, we've got DB Adventures here for the second winner. Well done, DB Adventures. Mate, this is a pretty serious one. I don't want to go right into this one. I don't want to jump down the black hole, but I think we should just have a quick word and just mention when are we going to address the current four-wheel drive behaviour that's resulting in all the great destinations being shut down, campsites and beaches being destroyed by donuts and driving on sensitive areas, etc., and then that activity being plastered all over Instagram.
It's a big problem right there.
It is, mate. It is. Look, we could have probably done a whole show on this. It's a bit negative. I don't particularally want to, but I think it needs addressing.
It needs addressing, and I think there are so many bloody idiots. I think, let me start by saying that four-wheel driving has become so much more popular that there's so many more people getting into it, which is fantastic for the industry and for just the four-wheel drive lifestyle. But the problem is there's a couple of bad eggs, and when that, the amount of people get into four-wheel drive is booming, those little minority is actually getting quite big now, and there's a lot of people just doing the wrong thing out there.
It's a curly one, man, and I think a lot of it does stem from the fact that a lot of these people don't actually enjoy the bush. They couldn't care less if they're in the bush or not. The bush just has two big advantages. One of the advantages is there's not a lot of people out there, and the other one is there's no law enforcement out there. So it's kind of anything goes. You can get away with it. Mate, look, like I said, I'm no angel. I've been known to do the odd skid every now and again, but what I've always tried to maintain is that there are areas to do such things and there are areas not to. Just like you've got a mate out the back that's got his own skid pad and he gets his ute out on there and does it, not harming anyone, he's having a bit of fun. You can do the same thing, but maybe do it on a farmer's paddock as long as the farmer knows you're doing it. I know everyone wants to let off steam and have a bit of fun. Just pick your areas. Do it where you're not in a public campground or in a national park. And certainly, don't go posting the blooming thing on Instagram. It's just not necessary.
At the end of the day, mate, it's only a small minority of people who are stuffing it up for the rest of us. 99% of people are doing the right thing, are picking up after themselves and promoting full driving and camping in a fantastic light around this country. So, and for all that 99% of people, mate, I'm going to raise my beer and say a big cheers. Thanks for doing the right thing, hey? Cheers,
guys. Good on you. And you know what? I'm seeing more and more young kids, that are saying don't do that. Pick up your rubbish. That's
catching on, man.
Really is. That's really heartening. That's really heartening to see because they're making some of the sort of mid-range age groups look a bit doddery. Like, come on, pull your socks up. Because if a little 8-year-old can pick up the rubbish, you can too.
That's right, 100%, mate.
Righto, mate. Look, prizes. We're known for giving away a thing or two on this on the old episode here. What have we got coming up, mate?
We've got a bit of a habit of this, mate. We've got a bit of habit
of this.
Of it. Mate, we're giving away a Runva XP 9000 winches, the same one we use, and these are a cracking winch, mate. And a lot of people, you should be having your fingers crossed because this is a winch that, if you're going at the top end this year, this is going to be it's going to come in handy, mate. To be in the running to win a brand new Runva 9000 XP for the front of your vehicle, it really is this easy. Just simply go to the comments below and put a comment in at the time you've been the most bogged on which track, and we're going to go through that, find maybe the funniest or one of the most mental boggings, and you can find yourself with a brand new winch.
Mate, if I was going to enter this competition, I reckon I would have enough entries to almost guarantee I would win myself a Rumba. Because I have been bogged on just about every track.
Times. That's a good idea.
You could.
That's
Why
a good
not?
idea.
Have a crack.
Well, Graham, one of the things you talked about when we were talking about the hot topic is good communications, mate. That's vital for just about any trip, I reckon, isn't it?
I reckon it is, mate. I'm a bit of a nerd when it comes to comms.
Well, the good news is we've got Tony from GME. Now, this bloke is an absolute guru when it comes to off-road communications, and I caught up with him a little bit earlier to ask him a few really cool questions that is going to help you guys out a lot. So let's get into it. Righto, Tony, thanks for joining us, mate. Look, Instagram, Facebook, all our social media streams went off when we started asking questions about UHFs, mate. And as far as I'm concerned, there's no better bloke to answer a couple of questions for us, mate. So if you don't mind, I might just go through a couple of questions that have been very popular on our social streams, mate, and you can do your best to answer them.
Yeah, go for it, mate.
Oh, this one's a common one. We get asked this all the time. This one's from Katie. How difficult is it to install the UHF yourself?
Yeah, look, it's pretty simple, really. If you've got a basic understanding of 12 volt, they're easy enough to install at home. There's a couple of little things that you got to be careful of. Keep the antenna cable away from, any other power, particularly things like light bars, which can create a lot of interference. Make sure all the wires are fused, and that's really about it.
It is one of the easier DIY probably projects you can take on, but like you said, there are a couple of little tips to make sure you get the most out of it, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. And if anyone needs any tips, we've got a couple of really good videos on our YouTube channel, which will run you through the process.
Here's another one, mate. Here's another question. This is probably a lot of people got the same question in their heads right now. This one's from Dante. What does DBI mean, and which is best to use? And Brad, he's also asked the same thing. What's the difference between a long and a short aerial, which I think they're quite similar questions.
Yeah, absolutely. So look, DBI quite simply is a measurement of gain. In layman's terms, that means how much of the transmission power from the radio is getting transmitted through the antenna. So the different decibel ratings, or the different gains, starting low and going high from 2.1, 6.6, 8.1, it basically refers to the radiation pattern of the antenna. So the way that the antenna radiates the transmission. The shorter antennas have a rounder radiation pattern. They're good for hilly, mountainous terrain, built-up areas. And the longer antennas with the higher gain are better in open areas. So, out on the highway, out on the plains, they'll give you greater distance, but they won't be so good in those hilly, built-up areas.
Here's a question from Corey. Does the aerial location matter when it comes to range and interference?
Yeah, look, it absolutely does. We see a lot of antennas mounted on the backs of vehicles, particularly with your Jeeps and that sort of stuff, and it's not an ideal location. Ultimately, the best spot for your antenna is in the centre of your roof, but we understand that a lot of people don't want to drill holes in the centre of their roof, which is pretty understandable.
Yep.
The best spot for your antenna is out on the bull bar, on one of the tabs if you've got one, or on a mounting bracket. So there's no obstructions, there's no interference from the vehicle.
Here's one from Adrian. Do you get interference if the UHF is close to the FM radio and touchscreen audio?
That's a really good one, and it's hard to answer. It depends on the individual device. As I mentioned earlier, the one thing that we hear all the time which creates huge amounts of interference is LED light bars. So the main thing to keep in mind when you're running your antenna cable specifically is that you run it away from any other power devices. But for the radio itself, there's no issues with that being mounted near your stereo or anything else. It's really about that antenna and the antenna cable.
Here's one from Sam. Can you use a splitter and have a 6.6 dBi and a 2.1 dBi aerial, which you can switch between on the go?
That's a question we get asked a lot. We see it on social media. We get a lot of people contacting us asking if it's a good idea and if we offer splitters. Now, we don't. And the reason for that is every time you introduce another connection into your system, you're going to introduce what's called loss. And a splitter, for example, could result in loss up to 1 dB of gain. So any potential advantage that you would have by running a splitter, you're going to negate by introducing that additional connection in the system. So the best thing that we recommend, if you want to have different antennas to suit different terrain, is you run one of our antennas that's got interchangeable whips, the same as what you run on all your vehicles, Sean.
Exactly.
You can unscrew your 6.6, screw your 2.1 in if you're going up into the high country, and then if you're going on a big run out on the highway, you can switch back over to the 6.6, and they're super easy to change over, as you know.
All right, here's one from social media. Biggest of rigs. that's his username. What are the benefits of changing from a simple whip to a thicker fiberglass antenna? Is it just for looks, or is there a bit of a gain in going thicker?
Oh, look, there's definitely the element of hairstyles about it. You've got to make it look cool. But realistically, in terms of RF performance, the different styles of antennas don't operate all that differently from an electronics perspective, but really it comes down to the mechanical design and the sort of terrain that you're going to be in. So if you're going to be doing a lot of tight tracks, a lot of overhanging trees, and I mean, I'm sure all of you have snapped an antenna off the car. You know, those standard AM/FM antennas don't usually last too long. So the benefit of the big fiberglass whips with the big chunky spring on the bottom is they're just way more robust and they'll handle a lot more abuse out on the tracks than some of those, smaller, cheaper ones.
Tell me about it, mate. This was one on Sooty right behind me here. This has copped an absolute beating and still, okay, apart from missing a bit of paint, you could almost repackage that and sell it again, mate. It's in perfect nick.
Absolutely.
Here's one from Lachlan, mate. What channel do you recommend for going on the tracks? Is channel 40 okay?
Yeah, look, channel 40 is fine in the bush. Generally speaking, channel 40 is seen as the highway channel. So if you're touring around the country, channel 40 is the one that you'll get a lot of your caravanners and your truckies on. Yep. In the bush, you can use most channels. The two that you've got to be careful of is channel 5 and 35, which are allocated for emergency use only. So make sure if you're just having general chat with your mates or you're spotting each other, you're not on 5 or 35. But apart from that, you're pretty much good to go.
You're good to go. I like to try and find an obscure channel myself. Hopefully, then I can get it just for myself and those in my convoy so I don't get too much interference.
That's right. And that's the beauty of having 80 channels is you can usually find a channel that no one else is talking on and you'll have it to yourselves.
You're good to go. All right, here's one from Jack. What is the best budget UHF that still has the capabilities of all the pricey ones? That's a good question.
That is a good question. Look, there's nothing wrong with cheap gear. Everyone's got to start somewhere, right? But when it comes to UHF radios, you really do get what you pay for. And a lot of those high-end features that you'll see on some of the more expensive radios quite simply aren't available in the budget ones. With that said, GME radios, we've got a range that starts at about $250, right up to your top of your range XRS, which is around $500. Yeah. The beautiful part about a UHF radio, though, once it's installed in the vehicle, you're going to get a really long life out of the radio. They all come with 5-year warranty from us, but the average life cycle of a fixed mount UHF is 10 to 15 years. So you've got to consider, maybe it's worth investing a little bit more and you'll make sure that you'll have, a really good experience using it for many years to come.
Yeah, look, Tony, I couldn't agree more, mate. There's something that you probably don't know, mate. I've still got the original GME that was in the Dirty 30, the original Dirty 30. That thing's clocked up hundreds of thousands of Ks now. The body is buggered, but the UHF is still in the back of the shed here. And I'm actually going to put it into my 47 series and keep it going, mate, because it's a little beast.
Love it, mate. We recently ran a trade-in promotion and honestly, some of the radios that we got back were older than me and they were still working when we received them. So, as I said, it's worth spending a little bit more in the first place and you'll get the best possible performance. Yeah,
look, that's a great little tip and something that I live by, mate. I'll buy, usually once, buy it right, and I'll actually, if I sell a vehicle, I'll go and keep that UHF and put it in the next vehicle because, mate, you buy quality and it'll outlast your vehicle half the time.
That's exactly right, mate, especially the way you drive them.
Yeah, you've seen it firsthand, mate. Look, Tony, thank you so much, mate. We've had a stack of questions come through our socials. A very popular topic when we talk anything UHFs, mate. If it's okay by you, I'm going to encourage everybody, if you've got another question about UHFs that we didn't cover just now, put it in the comments below. And Tony, mate, if it's okay with you, we'll go through and answer all those questions that people have in the comments below.
Absolutely, mate. Happy to help.
Excellent, mate. Well, thanks again for coming in. And that 80 is looking pretty wild, mate.
Cheers, Shauno.
Well, there you go. What did I tell you? Tony is an absolute guru when it comes to everything UHF related.
Mate, the biggest issue with your gear is the bloke holding onto the microphone. You talk like you've got marbles in your mouth, mate. You've got to...
Oh, you can talk, mate.
Speaking of not talking very well, mate, how about we fail? Do you want to fail? Do you feel like failing?
Failing can do failing.
We had a heat this week. It seems you folks at home have really been getting out on the tracks and, not driving them so well. And I love that. They're giving them a red hot go. Yeah, some of them are doing it well. Others not so well. We got a prize this week, mate, and of course it's none other than joining the exclusive club, the Full Send Club, for failing. It's as simple as that. Just don't drive as good as you should. Could get yourself a t-shirt.
Look, when you're out in the bush, you've got the perfect excuse now. Like, if you don't drive a track or you end up on your side or something, you can just say, hey, I was trying to win a prize and full drive 24/7, you idiot. Like, come on.
Perfect. And everyone's just got to stand back.
Perfect excuse.
Yeah. Mate, all you got to do is upload that file to Instagram, full drive 24/7, and use the hashtag 4WD247fails. Now, let's get straight into it. Now, this guy here lives, breathes, he is the epitome of the full send. This is Guy, and he has decided to just launch that GQZ straight into the air, and his false teeth are falling out, mate.
Well, when I first looked at that, I was like, what's he doing taking Daryl for a test run?
It does look like Daryl. In fact, you're mentioned in there, mate. There's someone's actually said
really?
Daryl's next. Shauno four-wheel drive. Daryl's next modification, mate. So you're actually mentioned in there.
There you
Now,
go. No, I thought that was a normal thing for GQs. I didn't see anything wrong with that photo.
No, that's the extra flex, mate. It'll actually land and that'll be fine. Now we've got a video here, mate. We got a couple of vehicles stuck in this video, and we've got a GQ trying to pull them out. He's trying to pull the first one out. Oh, look at that! See that right there, mate. That's right. That's exactly what I've been trying to tell you about patrols. It's just you could have attached another 20 cars to that. He would have kept going. No problem at all.
I think so, mate. I think this bloke needs to get some decals of maybe a horse to put on the side of that GQ because it's a proper stallion. Right. If you look at that video, mate, he's done well, hasn't he?
He has done very. It's not a fail at all. Actually, I'm going to call that a win. You shouldn't even be in here. You haven't failed at all.
Absolutely.
Mate, we've got Dylan here who got a bit overexcited on the long weekend, and he's
we've all been there, haven't we, mate?
Yeah, and sometimes it's ended up very much like that, actually.
A lot of moisture around.
A lot of moisture around.
Speaking of moisture, check out this, mate.
He's flooded it, mate. There's
the wet season in that vehicle.
And he's gone the whole hog. He's taken everything out, which
everything out.
Let's be fair, it's probably a good thing to do.
Now, Sooty has been in that position a number of times over its illustrious career, and not once have I ever taken the interior out. And the other day I pulled up the carpet, and no joke, it's got about an inch thick of mud underneath the carpet. Go figure.
That's probably acting as like a sound deadener. You take that out, the car will be horrible to drive.
There's also no rust as well, mate. So look, I'm not changing anything. It's going to stay like that.
No, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, mate. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Speaking of if it ain't broke, don't fix it, Jessica, what the heck is going on here, mate? I cannot see how you possibly got into that predicament.
You know it's pear-shaped, mate, because they've lost all their clothes. Obviously, it's got a very stressful situation. Shirts have come off, pants,
it's the first thing
everything's
I do.
off. Yeah,
first thing I do.
Exactly right, mate. These emergency situations.
Yep, and you can
what's
tell
going on here? Is that a ratchet strap?
Yeah, you can tell they're desperate. They've got a ratchet strap down the bottom there. Everyone's looking a bit nervous, Nelly. I think the least we say about that, the better. Let's move on, shall we? Because that's a real good fail, that one. Now, we've got a video here from Joseph. Now, he's obviously got into a sticky situation, and he's done what everyone would do. He's got the Max Tracks out. But have a go at that, mate. We have been here before.
Oh, haven't we ever? That is not a good job, by the way.
No, it's a horrible job, and then they don't stick back together well. You got to wash them off somehow. Mate, a tip for you though, Joseph. Use the fabric strips, the ribbons that come with the Max Tracks. The lanyards. It makes it finding them so much easier. You don't have to dig around as much. You still got to get them out.
I was anti-lanyards until I lost a couple of sets at Fraser Island and a couple in mud holes just like that. And nowadays I use them all the time.
It does make it so much easier. Have you seen places like the Dakar Rally when they use them and they attach the lanyards to the car so that once they're out, they don't stop and lose time.
That's a good idea.
They just keep going, and the Max Tracks bounce along behind.
I'm going to try that the next trip. I don't want to lose any time either.
Well, where are you going? You're not going anywhere. Speaking about not going anywhere, you remember this little bit of track right here on Monkey Gum?
Oh, this was that extra bonus line. That
it was
pretty gnarly. Pretty gnarly.
Yep. This was the B line, mate.
Go with this, eh?
You and Jocko drove it, but not like that. I was waiting for that to happen.
I didn't make it look easy, but I'll tell you what, Dayton, he's made it look even harder.
And he's done a bit of damage too, the poor bugger. Look at the driver's side. He's done a bit of
that's never good.
The old panelly boy there.
Mate, what I like the best is his mate. He's just come over, he landed on his back. That would have hurt. Look
how he's landed. I shouldn't laugh at him. I hope he's okay. I hope he didn't get hurt. That's a good fail, but mate, there can only be one cracker fail, and this week we've given it to Lucas, mate. We've been out to Cobor. I don't think we drove this section of Alphorns. Yeah, there are. Have a go at this. He's got a little zook up here.
Wow, in a zook as well.
He's decided to have a nap.
That is epic. Now,
it's
unlucky because zooks are really cool, and it's a shame that's happened to the vehicle, but to wheel a zook that hard, that is really cool. I reckon that deserves a prize, mate.
It does, mate. I think he's the winner. He's got to be the winner. And the fact that he's just in there going, no, all right, all good, and his mates are laughing at him, I think that's definitely full set. And look, even the dog down the bottom there.
Yeah.
You're right, mate. The dog, no problem at all.
Dog's like, far out. My smackos haven't fallen out the window, have they?
Can you grab those for us? Yeah. Lucas, you get yourself a full send shirt, mate. Now, folks, as we said at the beginning, super easy to get featured on Forward Drive 24/7 in the fail section. All you got to do, drive like Sean and I. Soon enough, you'll pop up. Hashtag it on Instagram, 4WD 24/7 fails. It could make you famous for all the wrong reasons, of course, but we could make you famous.
Well, it's that time of the show. I love this section, mate. It's show us your rigs, and we are pretty lucky, Graham. You and me, mate. We get to see some rigs, and it gives me a lot of inspiration, to be honest with you. And in this episode, we've got some absolute crackers. They're all top-notch, and they all should have won a prize, but we've got one prize to give away, and that is a $300 Castrol voucher. Now, that's a really cool prize. Imagine winning that.
It's pretty good, mate. Yeah.
Two services for old Sooty, I reckon, with a $300 voucher.
Yeah, I was going to say, I could probably do shorty once.
you know them a fair bit of money, I reckon, mate. Look, if you want to sift through the rigs, and there's so many good-looking rigs on Instagram, you just need to use the hashtag FourWheelDrive247 rigs, and there's something like 50,000 rigs up there, mate. So if you've got a little bit of time, you're in the shed, you don't want to really work on your rig, and you're having a couple of cold beers, jump onto that hashtag, mate, because it's an absolute cracker. There's so much inspiration on that one. But, mate, before we get into some of those rigs, and I'll tell you what, there's a couple of crackers in there, I thought that would have a look at Tony's 80 series. Now, if you remember back, Tony from GME, you got a little glimpse of his 80 before we were chatting everything about UHFs. I got him to go through his 80 because, mate, it's an absolute cracker. It's a real beast of an 80, one of the best set up 80s, I reckon, in this country. And it's cool to see that, this bloke is in the industry. He doesn't just, work for GME. He lives and breathes this lifestyle, mate. He's a four-wheel driver just like you and me, mate, and his 80 series is an absolute work of art. So check this out.
G'day guys, I'm Tony. I'm the marketing manager from GME, and I want to show you my 1992 Land Cruiser 80 series.
Tony describes this Mint 80 series as a camping rig that got out of hand. After buying it 3 years ago with some basic mods already done, his intention has been to keep it as a touring rig to go camping with his missus and dog. But soon, the mods started to add up and things snowballed from there.
So it's a factory turbo 1HDT. I've got a 4-inch stainless snorkel, stainless airbox, custom front mount intercooler, a 3-inch exhaust, and it's been dyno tuned to 15 PSI.
Tony soon replaced all the old mods on the vehicle and has beefed up the suspension and underbody to be able to take on the hardest tracks going.
So the car's running a 4-inch lift, all adjustable arms throughout. It's twin locked, and we're running 35-inch mud terrains on bead locks. So I'm running a Razzler comp bar with a high mount winch, custom side steps, and a Razzler rear bar with dual swingaways. Got the jerry cans on one side and the spare tyre on the other. All right, so I've got a full custom drawer system. Got a 75-litre dual zone in the back. I've also got an 11-litre fridge in the centre console for when I'm on the road. In here also houses the 12-volt system. So I've got a Red Arc BMS 30, got a Red Arc Red Vision TVMS, and it's all powered by a 200 amp hour lithium DCS battery.
Now, you'll notice 2 GME aerials on the bonnet. One is, of course, for the GME XRS UHF radio, but the other is actually hooked up as a cellular antenna paired with a 4G repeater to give better reception out bush. Other mods include dual light bars, Red Arc gauges, clear view mirrors, and a 270-degree awning. For its next trip, the 80 will be taking Tony all the way from the Fink, across the Simpson Desert and back through New South Wales from Cameron Corner. Tony, that is one heck of a rig, mate.
All right, onto the audience rigs, and the first one comes from James, mate. Have a look at this Hilux. This is a reconditioned 2006 Luxie. Yeah, mate. 2-inch lift, 33s, all the kit, twin snorkels. Look, I think it's got a Muzz bar up front. That's a really cool looking bar.
Yeah, it is.
Just got all the cool stuff on it. It's just a really good looking rig.
I would like to know, has he got both those snorkels plumbed up, or is it just for looks?
Oh, maybe one's just
Get
to
back
sneak.
to me.
You put cans down it to sneak it into dry areas. Oh, no, you shouldn't do that.
You never do that. You put your stubby holders down there. That's what you do.
You just gave him in the second one. Yeah, I never got twin snorkels, but it looks cool though, mate. Going from a Hilux straight into a Nissan. This one's Jack's, and it's twin locked on 35s. Have a crack at this thing, mate.
Can you even do that?
And
Can you even do that?
It's an absolute weapon. He's got big aggressive tyres on that thing. It's kitted up for work and play by the looks of it.
Yep, Jack's done a huge amount of work to turn his nav into a serious track weapon. Sitting on a 4-inch long travel suspension kit with 2-inch diff drop and a 2-inch lift, the vehicle has also got extended bump stops. And after lower control arms, dropout cones and spring retainers, the rig is protected with rock sliders, bull bar and a tow bar. There's a stainless steel snorkel, diff transfer, gearbox breathers, light bar, driving lights, custom airbox, and of course an intake pipe, Provent catch can and a secondary fuel filter.
Mate, here's one that you'll absolutely love, Graham. Dan's Y61. It's missing a couple of doors.
Yeah, it is. And there's something under the bonnet that shouldn't be there.
Mate, that is an M57 conversion. Now, those guys that aren't familiar, that is a BMW motor. It's the diesel one. Now, they are quite a cheap conversion over here in Australia. Not many people doing them. They make a stack of power, quite reliable.
They're the bomb.
Mate, they're awesome. They're awesome. Our mate Jesse's actually thinking of doing something with a one of those BMW. Yeah, Jesse, in one of his
I'm going to have a real chat to that man.
I suppose I get it. Though, mate. You're sick of a forklift motor, so you decide to put in a BMW
have a word
diesel
with him,
heaps of power, probably
and
really
I'm not
economical.
talking to you anymore.
Well, mate, there can only be one winner, and the winner is Kyle, mate. Now, he's got what I reckon was one of the most perfect built tourers for going to remote areas. You know, look at this thing. Look how it's set up, mate. It's just an absolute beast. It's an extra cab GU. You know all about these sort of mods, Graham. It's got the canopy, the rooftop tent. It's got a couple of wheels on the back. It's just set up for no-nonsense touring.
Long distance really is the name of the game with this build. And in the past 7 years, Kyle has taken the big GU on the Gibb River Road 3 times, Israelite Bay, the Pilbara, and twice on the Umbulgari track in the Kimberley. The converted extra cab is twin-locked and runs a 6.5 litre engine with custom turbo, a 4-inch exhaust, an aftermarket airbox, snorkel and intercooler. For camping, there's dual fridges, 3 batteries run by a Red Arc BCDC, and an electric rooftop tent. Kyle and his partner love to explore with a tinny in tow, and with a rig like that, there's not much that could stop them.
I reckon that's a worthy winner, mate. That's a beautiful vehicle, and it's set up no frills in the sense that he knows what he wants to do. That's exactly how he's built it.
Yeah, exactly right, mate. He's got the right mods for travelling this cool country of ours. So that's a deserved winner. Kyle, well done, mate. And I reckon that's probably a really cool prize for someone who probably does as many Ks as this bloke as well. So
I agree,
$300 voucher courtesy of Castrol, mate. That's a fantastic
way to rock and
prize.
roll.
Yep.
Mate, how do you get to be in the old rig segment? What do you got to do?
Really is quite easy, mate. All we need to do is upload a couple of cool photos or go back through your Instagram page and choose a couple of cool ones. Use the hashtag Full Drive 24/7 rigs. It really is that easy, and we'll get to see your rig. It's simple as that. And hopefully, you can be on our page to win a prize.
We're about done. I need to go and grab another brewski because I'm empty as a pocket, mate. What's coming up on Full Wheel Drive 24/7?
Well, mate, coming up on Full Drive 24/7, we've got a stack of stuff as always coming to this channel and some really cool videos, mate. Now, if you look at this 80, you'll see the mud. Yeah, it's a little bit wet still because we've just got back from Victoria. You're going to see another really cool Victorian episode coming up. And, mate, do you remember we did a competition where we gave a golden ticket to win a trip with us?
The golden ticket? Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, the winner of that, Chris, he got to come on the Victorian one, mate. He jumped in shotgun with Sooty and had the absolute time of his life, mate. So think big ruts, big, deep mud, just insane hills, everything that Victoria's famous for, mate. Scared the absolute heck out of me. It was cool.
Now, look, I just put a reminder out there that if you want to get in on the prizes that we give away, as you can see, there's a prize for just about every segment, and if we don't, there's a prize for just nothing. We just give prizes away. We like doing it.
Just give prizes. That's what we do.
All you got to do is follow us on Instagram, Facebook, subscribe, click the like button, do all that stuff. You know what to do. And if you do that,
follow. Exactly.
And that's how you win
time to
stuff
commit.
like
Let's take our relationship to the next level. Press the subscribe button. It really is
What's
that
with
simple.
you and relationships this
well,
episode?
mate, I figure that I've got a bit of a, I've got to give some good advice every now and again.
Yeah, and this is it. You're doing it this episode. Good on you. Commit. Absolutely.
Commit.
Mate, I think that is us for this Beers in the Shed. However, I'd like to leave you with one last little bit, folks. We were sent in a song by our mate Cameron. It's all about four-wheel drive 24/7 and the four-wheel drive lifestyle.
It's crazy that someone would care enough about this channel to write a song about it. Now, we were absolutely blown away. And, we played it a couple of times. I thought it was pretty cool. In Victoria, on the last trip we just did, we sung it nearly every single day. It became so catchy. So, folks, we'll leave you with this one. Cheers.
Cheers, Shauno.
Cheers, mate.
Living for the weekend, hit the tracks. Monday to Friday, so mundane. Want to be four-wheeling 24/7. SHAUNO Graham, Jacko on my TV screen. dust, mud, big ruts and river crossings. Loud pedal point and shoot, slippery inclines. Big list, twin lock, mud terrain, which is dominating. Toyota, Nissan in competition. Pony, Lux and Darrow keep on wheeling. Shauno in his weapon of an 80. When he gives it the berries, I turn my volume up. He's lifting wheels and making meals. Bring on the show and bring on the beer. The best four-wheeling action I've ever seen. On my TV screen 24/7.